Welcome back to Between Two Bs, the official podcast of the B to SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Right now on Between Two Bs, two fan favorites, SMB tech gurus Rachel Noman-Shapiro from Vcita and Chris Vasquez from AWeber. They're here to face with you a most uncomfortable truth in our B to SMB industry. AI is not scaling with SMBs. We're fresh off sharing research showing 70% of SMBs feel completely unprepared for AI. And we're diving into why the hype isn't translating to adoption. Are we building the AI solutions that SMBs want? Or are we building just the ones we want them to buy? Let's get into it. Hey everybody, Dave Walker here with the B to SMB Institute, and I am back with two of just my favorite people to interview because they are not only subject matter experts, they are day in, day out practitioners of building products and services for the small business space. And I have tapped into their perspectives and their expertise several times over the course of the last couple years. And it's always been a really delightful conversation. So please join me in welcoming Rachel Noman-Shapiro from Vcita. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I was looking forward to this all week. And you guys, we've had such a great conversation last time three of us connected. So I'm definitely psyched for today.
I am psyched as well. And Chris Vasquez from AWeber.
Rachel just said it. I'm stoked to be here, talk about some challenging stuff and learn something, I'm sure, from the two of you as well.
Yeah. And I appreciate you guys doing this. The timeliness of it is important, really, from my perspective, because as we were talking leading up to this just last week, in the first week of September, we released a report that was kind of a summer-long project for my team in compiling as much research as we could to gauge the adoption of AI amongst small businesses. And it was prompted by what a number of executives had said to me over the course of the last 18 months, which is, hey, pilots went great, building use cases, early adopters are happy, they're making money with AI. How come it's not scaling though? How come we're not seeing more mass adoption? And that was to me, that was a pretty provocative kind of statement. And I wanted to get to the bottom of it. Is that, first of all, is that accurate? And as we started peeling back the layers of the onion of research that was done out there, the one that really kind of stood out was from McKinsey. And I'll just give you the brief overview of it because I think it sets the tone. And it was across a series of 5 different studies that they did between October of 2024 into the mid-year 2025. They too were asking the question fairly consistently, are small businesses really getting the joke of AI? Are they using it? Do they intend to use it, et cetera? And they found what they dubbed the 92-to-1 paradox. And the 92-to-1 paradox or disconnect is 92% of small businesses intend to use and invest in AI. I don't even know what is comparable to that from a shared investment level of small businesses. I can't think of anything. But the paradox is that only 1% of businesses describe themselves as mature users of AI. Massive intent, but more distressing really was frankly the sense that they don't actually know what they're doing yet with this. And the sub number that was even more distressing was 70% said they feel, quote, completely unprepared for AI. Not just a little bit unprepared, not just, I'm not sure I got the right talent. They're basically saying across the board, I feel completely unprepared. That's the lead in. I'd like you guys to obviously do quick, brief reminder of who you are, but then to just kind of take that proposition that small businesses are struggling with adoption and tell me, are you seeing it? Is it of the magnitude that some of these reports suggest? Is it something that you think is just a transition? It's just basically, it'll be that worry will be gone within 3 months. Give me your perspective. So Rachel, why don't you start?
Sure. So I'm Rachel from Vcita. I lead product marketing at Vcita, which means that I am super fortunate to be able to experience both voice of the customer, kind of voice of the product, the voice of the market, and just be able to sort of listen to all those voices and try and shape Vcita's product and strategy to position us well to be a great solution for SMBs and a great partner for other organizations that serve SMBs the way we do. We've been invested in AI from pretty early on in the game. Our CEO, Levy, he's a little bit of a nerd. So he sort of saw the AI trend coming. We're all nerds. Who am I kidding? But he was pretty early to sort of foresee the trend before it really became a trend. And he was talking about AI in Vcita before AI, was such a conversation, before AI for SMBs was a conversation. So we've had our chance to sort of experiment with AI. We've done our own research projects to sort of test the waters and understand what the potential of AI could look like for SMBs. And at this point, we've had our AI solution in the market for over 2 years, and it's evolved a lot over time. And I also just wanted to add that I'm really happy we're having this conversation. And I mentioned this when we were doing our introductions, how I think it's a brave conversation to have. And I think and I think we spoke about this last time we met, how our responsibility as tech leaders is not only to use all the buzzwords and celebrate in the conferences, it's also to bear the responsibility of making technology accessible to the people that need it the most. And I think that if there's if there's an issue, if we're not able to get good AI solutions into the hand of SMBs, and if we're not able to get them interested and engaged and excited about it the way we should be open about it, and we should brainstorm, and we should talk about, the challenges and our ideas and bounce ideas off each other. So I'm super excited to be here today. And I got so swept up in my own introduction and a little spiel about excitement. I completely forgot what you actually asked me. Can you ask again?
Well, I'll ask you, I'll let Chris do his own spiel.
Perfect.
And then we'll come back to you. And the question is really in the kind of the numbers that I cited, and I know you guys have digested the report itself, but is this true? Is this what's really happening from your perspective? Or is it really kind of like, it's false positive, So just think about that. All right, Chris, over to you.
Like Dave mentioned, I'm Chris Vasquez. I'm the Chief Product Officer at AWeber. We're a platform that provides marketing tools, mostly email, so what we love, to small businesses. And I'll say we're experiencing this as well, that there's this huge intent and desire to use AI tools from small businesses. And I think a lot of that is just driven by the incredible narrative. Basically, anywhere you go to learn about marketing as a small business owner, everyone is talking about AI in some fashion. So there's this feeling that I should be using this. And we do have a subset of our users who use the AI tools. And I will say, once they use them, once they get over the hump of actually familiarizing themselves with them, they use the heck out of them. So our AI tool users are almost to a person power users. They use it a lot. They treat it in some ways as an additional team member, all of the promises of the technology, right? But it is a fairly small subset of our total customer base. So we're definitely seeing it. And the thing that I want to talk about more, but Dave, this report from Vcita SMB is just awesome and full of good things. And the thing that stands out to me most is that it seems like the problem that small businesses have is distinct from the problem that large organizations have. There's this one section on the skills and talent crisis. And that feels like, from the customers that I've talked to who have the intent but haven't followed through, that seems like the real problem that I keep coming face to face with over and over again, is they want to use something, but they don't even feel equipped to start, let alone tune or set up their own flavor of an AI tool.
Yeah, I want to circle back around to that. I want to give Rachel, I want you to come back now to kind of the question. Are you like Chris, are you sensing, and you don't have to talk about your world necessarily, but in the broader world of selling products and services that are infused with AI to small businesses, what are you sensing is going on right now?
So what I can share on a personal level is that every time I hop on a call with an SMB customer or an SMB customer of one of our enterprise partners, they'll ask about a million things. They have a million questions, a million interests. They will never ask about AI. It's just not on the top of their list. We imagine an SMB waking up in the morning being like, okay, what AI solution am I going to be using today? In reality, they're probably thinking about 100 other things, and not even one of them is in remotely AI related. And I think that translates into user journeys as well. When an SMB is, logging into could be anything, it's their CRM, their marketing platform, their billing platform, they have a task, they have a job to be done. They want to collect payment from a customer. They want to answer a customer's message. They want to send out a campaign. They're not at this mindset of, hey, how are we going to use AI today? So I think for AI to work well, it needs to be embedded within that job to be done. It needs to be baked into the workflow in a place where it doesn't even really matter that it's AI. It's just productive and it's just driving value and it's helping, me, the user, do what I came here to do and maybe save some time because some of it is automated. And I think that if you're able to crack that, adoption can look completely different. We could be looking at different figures. But if we're not quite there yet, and we're still viewing AI as a bit of an isolated component of the solution, or we're still expecting small businesses to hop right in and be like, oh, new AI feature, how do I use this? That's where I think, we're seeing the gap between our expectations and the actual real life adoption in the small business market.
That's a really excellent insight. I was at a conference that Zoho held right after Labor Day, and I know they're competitors of both of yours, but they actually took a brave position as a very engineering driven company, which Zoho is, a brave position to say, we treat AI, those two letters, we treat them like Voldemort. We do not utter the name. We do not say the name AI. We basically know that our customers, the moment that we drop those two little letters into a sentence that really is about automation and functionality and efficiency and speed and quality and all these other things, they freak. And so we don't think they need to know that it's AI. They just simply know it as something that comes in the process of working with our tool. And we don't even call it an agent because we think there's lots of baggage with the word agent. We really kind of prefer to just automate, just let the tool do the work it's doing, and they don't need to know, basically, that it's AI in the background. I thought that was pretty compelling, to be honest with you. But I want to get back to really and build a bridge into if you guys are echoing what I hear over and over again. And I told you that since we released that report, it's had 1,000 views. I've had tons of emails, tons of interviews with press, tons of reactions to it. And I would say not universally by any means, but in a very broad measure, everyone is basically nodding their head and going, yeah, that is. And the more I think that we all recognize, you said before, it's a brave conversation. It's not scary when it's all of us, when it's all of us basically saying, wait a minute, where's this boat headed? And so I think that helps a lot. But diving into the research that's out there from, as I said, so many different sources, everyone, tries to identify, well, what are the barriers? What are the things that are preventing people from, really, Chris, from your power users converting into the majority of your users? Same for you, Rachel. I'm going to rattle them off. And I want you guys to basically take them each in turn and tell me what your perspective is on it. So let's just start with the one that you hear most often, business case. Small businesses struggle to make, quote, the business case of investing not just the money, but the time and the risk to their way of doing things in AI. Do you think that is a common barrier for small business?
I do think so. And I actually kind of feel like that is partially our fault. Rachel, I loved what you're saying about like embedding solutions to problems that small businesses actually have. And I feel like part of the problem here is that we aren't releasing products that actually solve the problems that customers want solved. Like I had drinks the other day with a friend of mine who runs a psychiatric practice. I have had a different experience than you have, Rachel. I have a lot of people talking to me about AI because they hear about it all the time and they think they should be using it. They hear that it's powerful. So he was just talking to me saying like, I think I'm supposed to be using AI. I just don't know if it can help me in these places. And the things that he rattled off were like, I just need to find more clients. It's like that core problem that so many small businesses have. It's like, how can it help me do this thing? And talking through the tools that he actually uses, it's like, well, that tool has AI tools to summarize conversation. Oh, what about this other one? It has tools to summarize your notes. What about this one? Oh, it has tools to summarize text. So we're like building this thing with AI because we can, but it doesn't actually solve the problem that customers have. They do have this use case barrier, but the problem isn't that they don't have use cases AI could solve for. It's that we haven't built those solutions. We're just kind of building ChatGPT into our own products over and over again. That's where I see it. I'd love to hear your feedback,
Yeah,
Rachel.
I love how you said it's kind of our fault, because it is, to me, it's totally our fault. It is so totally our fault. I mean, with this craze, the early days of AI, and it was just like this gold rush. It's like, let's just put AI everywhere, let's like think of the, do now, think later kind of vibe. And I think we ran forward with a lot of ideas that seemed cool up front, but then when you actually think about the value to the user, is it actually saving them any time? Is it creating a little bit, maybe like is it just making the experience even clunkier than it already is? But those are questions we didn't take the time to consider back then. And I think we paid the price when we saw the kind of the excitement chill fast within our user base. Because at first there's this, this Dave called it, it's kind of just like, oh, this is cool, let's check it out. But I think you're right. Like if there's not a real business motivation behind the use of AI, it's just going to be a complete flop. And I think, if you think about, especially, I feel like this is very true around automation and time saving. If you actually try to quantify how much time you might be saving with some of these automated workflows, and this comes back to the AI could be completely embedded into the workflow. But at the end of the day, like I've seen user experience where it basically saves you from typing, 2 letters, or saves you from investing 5 seconds in completing a task. And sometimes just that mental energy of investing and learning how to use something new and doing things a different way, you have to weigh that against the value that the SMBs get gaining. So yes, I think, it's our fault. We rushed to developing something that were too small and not quite big enough to make the cut. And I think we're learning and evolving. And speaking of brave conversations, admitting to those mistakes and taking that with us on our journey towards the next generation of solutions we develop is super critical to me.
Yeah, and I think that what you guys are laying out is, frankly, a significantly more organization-wide challenge for an enterprise that sells a small business to solve. Most of the challenges have been solved by the engineers and the product developers and the marketers of the products. And that's concerning, because bottom line is the organization needs to come behind you guys and that development and really say, okay, we get it. We need to provide greater service. We need to provide, greater implementation processes and that kind of thing. So next big bugaboo that gets talked about is the skills and talent gap. And that portrayal, at least, is that small businesses, right or wrong, and let's talk about that, but small businesses, right or wrong, perceive that there are skills that they do not have, that they do not possess, nor does anyone on their team possess, to actually implement and use AI. Is that something that you see is a common barrier?
I think,
Chris,
yeah.
Oh,
go
no,
ahead.
sorry. Did you want to start?
No, go ahead, Rachel.
No,
Go ahead.
what pops into mind, for me is that, prompting is an issue with any chat-like interface. Your ability to articulate what it is that you're looking for, or if the SMB is, sitting in front of any kind of chat interface, regardless of what the use case is, their ability to put into simple words, what it is that they need, or for them to think of all the details, is super critical for them to gain whatever value they're looking to gain from that experience. So, and I think that's a challenge that's kind of baked into chat, and it's always been that way. And the difference is that it's chatting with the person they're chatting with, a very smart, model that can kind of connect the dots and guess what it is that the user is looking for. But if you're thinking of skill, I think that's a skill that small businesses definitely have to develop over time, like understanding how to put whatever they need. Like, I guess, Chris, in your case, it could be a campaign. In the Vcita case, it could be, seeking business advice or trying to build some sort of complex automated workflow or give guidance to an existing workflow. So that's, I think, like the prompting is a gap. Part of the prompting exercise is also providing guidance. And this is something that I've been pretty excited about. There are some solutions, like many SMB solutions, that are sort of locked. It kind of is what it is. The AI is built to do one thing or a few things, and it does it really well. But the way it works is the way it works. And the user doesn't have the tools to change it or customize it. there's this new idea, and this is something we've been implementing in Vcita and we're tracking, and I'm very excited about, is to provide unlocked AI solutions or workflows where you're actually enabling the user to say, I actually didn't like the way that went down, or the final result wasn't quite what I'm looking for. We use it in our conversation, in our AI bot, which is built to provide the SMB kind of an easier way for them to communicate with their clients. So it's almost like a bot that the SMB's clients uses to communicate with the SMB. So at this point, what we're doing is we're creating the answers for customer questions. So a customer, Chris, your friend is a practitioner, maybe someone is writing to them and asking about, do you provide, this type of treatment or that kind of treatment? So based on, in the Vcita example, based on the data in the account, AI will craft a message and say, yes, this is something we offer. This is how much it costs, or this is how long it takes. And, it's good for you if you're seeking, X, Y, Z, and our next available appointment is Monday at 2:00 or whatever it is. But, maybe your friend just wants to say, yes, that is a service we provide, but I actually would prefer to discuss the details over the phone. So we want to allow, and I'm sorry, this is like a very specific example, but I hope I'm getting the point through where
It's a great example.
we want to allow, we want to give the SMB the keys to this thing, to this machine. We want them to be able to make it adapt and design it. And we want them to be able to adjust the output according to their real business needs. And in that way, even if the use case isn't exactly the use case we imagined, they still have that wiggle room to adjust it and make it right for them. That's, that's a skill that is, in some ways, it's the SMB's skill because they need to provide that guidance. In some ways, sorry to put everything on us, it's our skill too, because it's our ability to build these unlocked experiences.
I saw a great comment on LinkedIn the other day. When did learning drop out of the description of AI? We started with machine learning, large language learning models, learning. And it seems like a lot of AI applications now, there's no learning component. There's learning kind of in the background, that the machine is doing from your data, but it's not learning what you like. It's not learning how you work. It's not learning the things that are really critical. So Chris, over to you.
That is a really interesting way to approach that, to give people more control. And I feel like there are two directions that you could go here. I've been thinking about like this pattern for interacting with AI for a lot recently. And on the one side, you could optimize towards choice, like you're doing, where you give the user more control. And in that case, like, provided they're willing to spend time with it, they can get it to do the thing that they want it to do. Like the idea of the unlocked agent, that's really cool. On the other end is the idea of optimizing towards more specific common use cases where the user has to do less. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about a little bit recently. Folks who are running small businesses, who are responsible for the marketing software that small businesses use in their business, a lot of them have this feeling of imposter syndrome here, or being out of their depth. And so like giving them complex interfaces is the reason why they abandon AI. They see it's like, shoot, I have to do stuff here. Then they think I must not be equipped to do this because there's a lot that goes into using AI well. And then they just bounce. Where my head has been at recently is kind of in the place where you started with your initial answer, Rachel, is like, how can we make AI do things without a person needing to ask for them, and actually useful things without a person needing to ask for them that make sense in our specific products. So like in our specific products, or anyone building something for small businesses. So they never know that they're interacting with AI. They don't have to train it. Like in our case, one of the things that we do to learn is we have our AI reference recently sent broadcasts. So as you send more messages, the corpus that we have around you changes. So like if we generated an email for you and you ended up going in and changing a bunch of stuff, that goes into the corpus of knowledge that the system has when it's creating future things. And I know other tools do the same thing. It feels to me like a lot of what we're doing is trying to give people chat ways to interact with AI where chat isn't the best way to do it. And we should just use our expert institutional knowledge, like you were saying, Rachel, to do the thing and then allow the person to use it, modify it, or throw it away. but not have them waste any time. It's funny, when I talk to small business owners who aren't using AI in their small business, a lot of them are using ChatGPT or Claude in their life. They'll like ask questions of it or use it to make fun images or do something like that. And what we're trying to do in some cases is by introducing chats. I'm not going to speak for everyone. I'll speak for me. And some of the ways I've thought about this is by introducing chats, I'm trying to steal mind share from ChatGPT, where people are already comfortable using ChatGPT for their conversational AI stuff. And they don't mind copy pasting. And tools like MCPs are going to make it easier for people to just type into ChatGPT and have it do the thing in whatever product they want. So instead of us trying to solve this knowledge problem by trying to make smarter chat interfaces, in my opinion, we should let the chat interfaces of choice continue to be chat. And in our cases, try and use AI behind the scenes to have just-in-time things created for people so they don't have to learn about it. It's kind of like putting a Google search or like really trying to replicate the search experience of Google in our products when we're trying to do the same thing for chat, as opposed to letting Google be Google for people and us filling in the gaps that we're uniquely good at. Sorry, I kind of went far afield there, but
No, not at all. I mean, because I think that the two build on each other. And what I heard was basically that the creation of an interface, in this case, the prompts that make the AI perform and deliver the business result that the small business is looking for, is really where the magic happens. And now kind of applying thought to not the engineering necessarily of the solution of AI, but the use of AI and how to get the most out of it. I'm struck by, again, another thing I read about was someone who is literally growing a massive TikTok following by simply providing provocative prompts that you can give to ChatGPT or to Claude or your AI of choice. And they're things that are, I wouldn't dare ask, but these are things that basically are kind of like, if you do ask, the answers are mind-bending. And you kind of realize that, wait a minute, this is as much of, and I think this is one of my at least thresholds in using AI, came about with Claude is, wow, this is a better creative partner than I thought it was going to be.
Yes.
I thought this was just kind of an analytical partner and a construct partner. This thing is pretty damn creative in what it comes up with. And I don't even know how.
You know what, Dave, you get to something there that I think is so important to recognize. And like, I routinely forget about this, is like, those are prompts that you would either never think to ask or not feel comfortable asking. And like, it's because the idea of prompting is hard. And it probably isn't hard for us because we do it all the time. For most people, even the concept of a prompt and like, what do I have to provide in it is so hard that the more I think about it, the more I think the ideal interaction with AI is one where there are no prompts, where the prompting is all system prompt or as much system prompt as possible.
Right.
And to like only ask for user prompts in the most extreme cases, because that's where people get hung up. That's where I got hung up when I was first starting. I would put garbage in and I'd get completely
garbage
useless
out,
stuff
right?
back.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or put in minimal effort into the prompt. It's basically like you figure it out.
If I had 100 other tasks,
how you treat interns, you figure it out.
Exactly. Because like if I had 100 other tasks to execute my small business, I wouldn't have kept banging on the prompts, So I completely understand why people try it out and then they're like, this isn't good. Why am I going to waste my time with this? And then they just bounce.
Well, Rachel, I know that the first time I saw the AI application inside of your products, primarily your business management platform, and I was struck by, wow, these are such intelligent questions to ask the small business as they're going through the processes of running their business. It's like, okay, you've completed this task. Did you think about doing this task? And what I think we're kind of getting towards is, don't actually ask that obvious question. If you've just completed your accounts receivable, would you like to do your payroll now? Basically, have the prompt that comes back out and says, would you like to take 2 weeks off in the month of September? Just really make it, frankly, like almost off the wall, but it's going to give back the same answer. So here's what you're going to do. you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and you're going to progress your way towards something that really is of enormous benefit to you. And again, I don't, not like that's a silver bullet, but I think that being creative about how we help small businesses figure out the power of prompts, and that in the right hands, prompts are freaking and incredible what they can bring back to you and be really, really important.
So-
let me go to the third thing, because I know we're going to blow through an hour here in really short order. But the third thing, and I think it's really 3A and 3B, it's kind of two sides of the same coin, barrier that is frequently talked about, is systems and data. And when have systems and data not been a problem for small business? I don't think that's ever, ever, ever been the case. From the first time that somebody took their VisiCalc spreadsheet home on their TRS-80 laptop, data and systems have been a problem. But what small businesses have to confront in very short order is when they're thinking about anything semi-sophisticated in the form of application of AI, is the tool needs to learn, and it can only learn, and it frankly should learn from your data, not generic data, but your data. In fact, that's, as Eric Day from Dell says, that's where the magic is. It's the proprietary data. It's not just data in general. It's the proprietary data that makes AI really compelling and builds its own business case. On the flip side, there's legacy systems, applications, etc., that they're just there. And you've got to figure out a way, particularly with the applications, that you can interface, that you can actually do this stuff. Now, it reminds me of a wonderful story, of the many, many wonderful stories that Steve Aldrich, who used to run product at GoDaddy, tells. One of them was early on at GoDaddy, they were trying to get to the DIY website, right? They were trying to get to this statement that, you can do all these things on your own. And the challenge that they ran into is the people, the users basically said, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to pick the pictures. I really don't want to write the copy.
Yeah.
And the comeback is, well, how could it be your site then if you're not going to do those things? Well, I don't have time to do that. And so it's a little bit like the same kind of challenge in the application of AI is, I don't want to do that stuff. I don't want to worry about hygiene of my data. I don't even know what hygiene of data is. I don't want to worry about cybersecurity. I got enough worries about just my freaking POS system.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about my system integration. I don't even know what that means. So tell me what your thoughts are around, is that really a barrier, a consistent barrier? Are you seeing it, in your worlds with your customers? How big of a barrier is that? Is that really the biggest barrier of all when it really gets right down to it?
Yeah, I think it depends on the business. Because if you're a solopreneur with a very small services business or something, and right now you're managing things through Google Sheets or some very simplistic way, connecting systems are going to be a problem there, but the value you might get from connected systems is not super huge. If you're a more mature small business and you have a significant amount of data in a relatively good state, then it's going to be a problem to get your systems connected. And it's also going to lead to significantly worse results. Because, I'm just going to 100% agree with you, Dave. Like, if you connect your existing data to a system that supports it, you're going to get way better outcomes than if you're just using a generic model. Most companies let's just be frank, most companies are using Anthropic or OpenAI or Gemini or something as their model. Then you may as well have just gone to the model and typed in a prompt yourself. On the systems side of things, it's just really important that you do that. But the tough thing here is it's really hard to change small business behavior around some of this stuff, like getting like data hygiene, like connecting a system themselves, like doing anything they don't want to do. But what I think this really speaks to is maybe a bigger opportunity for us as people providing platforms, technology to small businesses, then building it into our product is like, well, what if we internally release services that we couldn't have before because we had the barriers of people time to do some of these things for our customers. Like even as far as data hygiene, as far as building websites, like finding or creating pictures for people, that stuff is easy now. And if people don't want to do that, instead of trying to change their behavior and their opinion about it, could we just do it where we couldn't in the past because it wasn't feasible? I think that's a really exciting thing for us to think about. Like AI unlocks our customers' ability to do things that they never could before. Just a story about our team at AWeber. I have designers shipping production features who are not engineers. It gave them entirely new skills. And yes, they're working with a team, but entirely new skills. And it can give customers entirely new skills. Could it give us organizational new skills? So where we don't have to change people's minds, we can just do it for them. I don't know. It's kind of a scary question to think about, but this is kind of the world we live in.
I think it's the most appropriate question to ask when confronting this data and systems challenge is like, just suck it up, everybody. They're not going to solve it. Small businesses are not going to solve it. And we're going to basically be at the mercy of their lack of desire to solve it in the success of our product. No, we need to, and I'm with you, Chris. I mean, I think you make a parallel offering. You basically say, I can open up a whole new avenue of service business that, by the way, is AI enabled.
Yes.
It's constantly learning how to collect data, what form it needs to take, what QuickBooks data actually looks like, because that's the most common set of data out there. You know, how do I really kind of mine HubSpot? I'm your psychiatrist practice guy. How do I mine my mailing list for, for prospect lookalikes?
Yes.
So sorry to jump in there, but Rachel, what do you're anxious to give your 2 cents, I'm sure.
I think first of all, the early winners in AI are the companies that are building solutions that feed off the data that's already in the system. Okay, so I think if we're going to lead with something, and this, Chris, if you guys are leading with something for us and Vcita, if we're leading with any software, provider is going to lead with supporting the use case that only can live happily ever after with the data that's already in the system. And I think that's where we saw our quick win, right? That's when we're speaking about that. The early days of engagement, the early adoption, when we did things that were all in-house, all leaning on our own infrastructure, didn't really require bringing in data or supporting workflows that were cross-platform, that's our happy place. And I think we've sort of established a good baseline there. And the challenge comes with what happens next. What happens if I actually have a workflow that requires 3 or 4 platforms and I need data to flow from here to here to here. And I need, the AI logic to be supported throughout. And I think, you mentioned, Chris, before you mentioned like MCPs. And I think this is to me like probably the most exciting, breakthrough of the recent AI conversations, because this is what really gives us the ability to work beyond, our own little universe and our own little platform and connect the dots for the user and sort of eliminate the need for them to start worrying about the data and where the data sits and where the data goes. And, does this system actually talk to this system? It's almost like we're kind of creating a world where, how like there was a time where, everyone was so excited about this idea of machines talking to each other. So it's like systems are able to gradually communicate with each other and create these workflows that, are so much more productive and so much more valuable than any individual software provider can deliver. And I think this brings me to, I mentioned before that I have maybe a little bit of an unpopular opinion about SMB adoption in AI. I think, there's sort of 2 tracks for me. The first track is, this is the conversation about, getting SMBs to understand AI, not be worried about AI, taking over the world, getting them to trust AI, to understand how to use it, to implement it independently and proactively embedded into their daily workflows. And I think that's a conversation, that's a track we're going to continue to focus on, and it's going to happen. But in parallel, I also think we need to start thinking about AI not as something that the user has to proactively start engaging with and learning about and setting up in their system or worrying about their data. I think we need to think, and you mentioned before, Dave, how AI is sort of like the internet. Something I've heard other people say is that AI is like electricity. At some point, it's just going to be there in the background, powering the solutions. We don't have to know it's there. The users don't have to know it's there. I think that kind of takes some of the pressure off of us as software providers as in market education. And let's make sure all the SMBs understand how to do this and understand the value of this or how to do this, type of task that we're waiting for them to do. And it puts more of the pressure on us as providers to build these flows that simply, use AI under the hood seamlessly in a way that isn't intimidating. It doesn't create even more work for our users. And for me, these two tracks live side by side now. So on one hand, I'm still rallying the troops for, hey guys, let's get SMBs super excited and super educated and smart about AI. But I'm also on the other side where I'm saying, let's not count on our users to do our dirty work. Let's make sure we build AI solutions that just make sense and deliver value. And if no one knows that they're AI driven, that's also completely fine.
Geez, I hope that's not an unpopular opinion, Rachel. I really do. Because that means that to me is kind of like the culmination of the last 45 minutes of conversation. It's basically like, wait a minute, look, we have to take ownership of the successful implementation of AI, at least within our own products. And if we're in any way, shape, or form really thinking bigger than just ourselves, we're thinking, I need to really kind of set a standard. I need to basically share my best practice in doing this. And that's what I hope that, our center of excellence really that we're building around AI to SMB really promotes is that these are the best practices. These are the people who are really, frankly, doing it right on any of the different barriers that we've spoken about to small business. But I also hope that we don't lose our enthusiasm. And I found myself, frankly, kicking myself for not putting a subhead in on the cover of this, report on, oh shit, small businesses are not adopting SMBs. There was like, but I still believe, but I still emphatically believe that AI is a generational technology. It is something that is transformative for every aspect, including the structure of small businesses and entrepreneurship. It changes fundamentally the power grid. It changes fundamentally capabilities. And when it changes those things, it changes motivation, and it makes this impossible dream of entrepreneurship significantly more accessible. And I'm watching my kids use AI to build business plans for, and these business plans are freaking good. We're using Manus a lot, Manus.ai a lot, which frankly has become my favorite AI platform to use. But it's creating business plans that they can fully engage with and go execute. And that gives them, it's a Kickstarter, basically. In its truest sense, it basically launches them into the execution. Not that it's going to be perfect, and not that it's all going to work out, and not that it's all right, and doesn't need to be challenged at various times. But wow, what a way to really excite entrepreneurs and tell them is, look, this is. Mark Cuban was on an interview the other day, and he basically said, if I could be in a time machine and go back and be a college graduate right now with the tools that I have that are free to build my career, to build my life, I'd be freaking happy.
Yeah.
I'd be like a dog in the pool, man. I'd be right in there loving it. So, yeah. And I know you guys feel the same way, that this is not to dampen enthusiasm for AI, particularly as it relates to small business.
We just want it to live up to everyone's expectations. And that's, and that's our responsibility. And I did want to bring up just one more thing because you were talking about business plans. And I remembered that this is something I was hoping would come up in today's podcast. I don't know if you have like a minute to talk about the commercials behind AI, because, we can talk forever about AI and the excitement and the value to the user and how we love doing this thing, out of the kindness of our heart in a way, but we also represent businesses. And for this to be sustainable, we have to get our act together on the commercials behind AI. And to be honest, I think this is, I don't think anyone has it quite right yet. Just the way we're priced the AI
Mm-hmm.
solutions. I've seen some pretty weird things out there, people charging for tokens and quotas. And, SMBs aren't going to start counting the tokens or the quotas. And what happens if they're using something and they're out of quota and this is like a carrying out a critical business task and it just stops in the middle because they're out of quota? There's so many providers
Mm-hmm.
that package AI as an add-on. It's not actually in their core product. They're not adding it into their subscriptions. Fine for some
Mm-hmm.
components of it, but I think to really see AI, blossom and see our users enjoy it the way we want them to, I believe it has to be baked into the subscription that we charge for. And then at the end, it still needs to make commercial sense for us. So we definitely can't be losing money by enriching our solutions with
Mm-hmm.
AI. And I know this is probably a whole different, podcast episode, but I just hope that, anyone that's thinking about AI seriously and being a responsible adult about embedding AI into SaaS propositions for SMBs is also thinking forward and thinking about building something that is sustainable and makes commercial sense, both for the user as well for the organization providing the solution.
Well, as a former advertising executive, let me share your shame in the fact that we really, I agree with you 100%. You look at the Super Bowl ads that were around AI, and they were all so heavy on science fiction. I mean, it was not really the practical of, I'd like to have this invisible assistant sitting next to me in the kitchen to help me cook things. I'd like to have them helping me teach my daughter to drive. I'd like to have them doing all of these different real life examples of AI, and it's frustrating. And I will tell you, as someone who lived inside these worlds of large corporations making decisions about how they were going to go to market, particularly their advertising, these early conversations likely happened in boardrooms where on one side of the table were the engineers, the makers of the AI and the AI features and capabilities. And then the other side were product marketers like yourself. And the ad agency kind of sat at the end, and it listened to and realized that the engineers are really in control of this meeting and in control of how we communicate this product. And so when I see a lot of the advertising that goes on in AI, my observation is it's vanity stuff. It's not useful. It's not telling me what it actually does. It's just telling me that it's sexy and that it has really cool images, and it doesn't tell me what it does. And I think that's a big epiphany, I think, that the market's going to have, especially when it relates to small businesses. We have to be a lot clearer. This isn't a romantic relation we're trying to build between AI and small businesses.
Yeah,
Anyway.
like the only thing I have a question about with what you said there, Rachel, is like token based payments, unless it's for like an engineering tool or something like that. Completely agree with you, or an API. We don't charge separately for our AI products, but sometimes I'm like, I kind of think we should, just so the people who actually want the value of AI tools that you have to interact with, they can self-select into it. I thought when Notion released their AI tools, they did it in a very smart way because it was very early and they were just kind of like betaing it. So they charged it as like an $8 per seat add-on, if I remember. I think they might still do that. But what it did is it gave them a subset of users who valued, well, one, it gave them a way to see whether people thought it was valuable enough to pay for it explicitly. And then for the people who did, in their case, it gave them a universe of people that they knew valued it, so they could work with that group of people to make something that really satisfied them from the AI side of things. So that's actually something that internally I kind of go back and forth with myself, because like in an ideal world, AI should be completely transparent and it should just make the person's experience better. But at the same time, it's like there are clearly people, our power users, who really value it. And could I get more both from them and to them if I had a standalone AI upsell,
I'm just laughing because the conversation you're having with yourself right now is happening in my head simultaneously. That's the dilemma, right? And I don't think anyone has the answer, frankly. I think we're still on this journey, we're still figuring it out. But I think the bottom line is, and you said this yourself, it's like, it has to make sense for the customers,
but it also has to make sense for us because we're running business and it needs to be sustainable. We need to be able to continue that level of delivery. I just hope that everyone that's invested in AI for SMBs is also invested in building reasonable and responsible commercial models behind it. Yeah.
Agreed.
Hear, hear. So, and I think that the value of this podcast, this particular one, and you guys as guests, is that thank you for cracking open your minds and basically sharing and giving permission, frankly, to your peers to be thinking about these things. Because my fear is that, and this was the whole origin of the Institute, is that we used to go, when we were building BizHive, we would go around and confront the same meeting everywhere we went. It's basically, God, it's hard to sell to small businesses, but nobody was talking to each other. Nobody was basically sharing back and forth the experiences of reaching and engaging and resources and all those data points and ideas that are so important. I think we're at that kind of moment here with AI is that it's incredibly important for leaders like you to crack their brains open and basically say, yeah, this is what I'm thinking. And I thank you so much for doing that with us today. And I strongly encourage you, because you have such important and good voices, articulate voices on this business of AI and what it really means to our customers, to small businesses. So keep thinking, keep talking, keep participating. I appreciate you both greatly. Rachel, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you. I'm really grateful for you and this opportunity, and I'm grateful for you, Chris, for being here and having this chat again. I absolutely love this. I hope everyone enjoys listening to it, and I look forward to next time.
I sure hope so too. Chris, thank you. As always, my friend, always a great conversation. Always learn a lot.
Yeah, I feel the same way. And Rachel, I'm definitely going to email you immediately afterwards to talk about pricing and the strategy, what you've learned, what we've learned. That's why I love the Institute, is because everybody I talk to, basically, I learn something new from, and always just triggers something I never thought about it that way. Even if I disagree, it's I never thought about it that way. Dave, thanks for having us. It's a blast.
Hey, thanks for joining us for this episode of Between Two Bs, the official podcast of the B2SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes at the crossroads of the big B and the small B. Between Two Bs on your favorite streaming services.